So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Pamjit Pama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm taking this call to support the Child Protection, Child Sex Offender Government Agency Registration Bill in its third reading. Mr. Speaker, when this bill came before the House, this bill was called Child Protection, Child Sex Offender Register Bill, and now it's called Child Protection, Child Sex Offender Government Agency Registration Bill, Mr. Speaker. Often we say what's in a name, Mr. Speaker, but for the opposition, name of this bill was important. And yes, as a result of that, we have changed the name of this bill, and I want to thank the member for her contribution. I also want to thank all submitters for their contribution. I also want to acknowledge the Minister, Honourable Anne Tolley, for this very, very thoughtful bill, Mr. Speaker, because this bill is focused on the safety of our young people. Mr. Speaker, child sex offending is a serious crime, we all agree, and it does a huge amount of damage to our society. And we want to do things to stop that damage that is happening in the society because of these criminal activities. And this is going to be, as we have heard from other members, going to be a tool that will help us reduce offending and reoffending by child sex offenders. Mr. Speaker, this register is not going to be publicly available, as it is now very, very clear from the name of this bill as well, because the objective of this bill is not naming and shaming, as the New Zealand First Party wanted, Mr. Speaker, because the objective of this bill is the safety of children. Because naming and shaming, Mr. Speaker, in my view, is a very, very short-sighted objective, because we need to look at the wider picture. We need to think about people related to offenders. We need to think about long-term consequences of making their information publicly available. Mr. Speaker, so we need to look at the wider picture. And that's why, looking at that wider picture, we think that this register should not be publicly available. But on the other hand, Mr. Speaker, information on the register will be available to third parties if felt necessary. So it does cover that bit without unwanted consequences of making it publicly available. Mr. Speaker, we have heard about funding that will go into setting up this register. Budget 2016 allocates $8.2 million for the development of this register and also towards the operational cost. And yes, there will be ongoing cost, but Mr. Speaker, safety of children is important to us. And this national government is very responsibly managing our finances, government's finances. And so we have choices, Mr. Speaker, and we can invest in things which is to improve public safety. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great bill. I commend this bill to the House.